if your client is arrogant and you're also arrogant, then it's likely that either you'll be bankrupt or, or the client will want to shoot you. I mean, we know of architects who are threatened by their clients for real. So I think there has to be a skill in how we manage our clients. And I think maybe, I don't know, I see a couple of students who have taken my class on architectural practice, and I try to teach from my experience and also, of course, from the theories, that as architects, being in the center of all this, of all what is going on, we have to be able to negotiate with the different stakeholders in the industry, with your engineers, with your client, with the mason, with your own staff, with a fellow architect. I mean, it's for me, architecture is a lot of negotiation. With yourself sometimes, because one line wants to be longer, another wants to be shorter, you want to do reverse. It's sometimes very painful as well. But the skill to do that is very critical. You can come up with good buildings also in appreciating your client. So that may help you, and that may help in answering your question. I aspire to set up a big practice, Teddy. I don't have a big office, very small. And on this, maybe we may debate with Zaleka, because Zaleka has already said that he's running a practice that will not grow. I see no problem in setting up a practice similar to Sir Norman Foster, having 1,000 employees, 10,000, whatever. Amalgamating practices in the future. I see this also model working, and for this, of course, there are others. There are inputs that are necessary, but maybe on this we may debate.
Maybe two more questions, and it would be very nice to have them from students. Yeah, but okay, let's first.
Okay, I want to ask Amaniel Tashona, haven't you ever felt you had compromised your design because of not giving time for your design? Rather, you spent your time on some other things, like managing and any other thing. Haven't you ever felt, I would do this, if I had some more time, I would do this?
I have to respond to this immediately, because you see, for me, I don't see managing different from designing. I think that's an important element in what I preach as well. Maybe colleagues that have been in the practice class will tell you that managing is no different from designing for me. Negotiating with a client is no different for me. This is in this for me. So if I'm managing a project, I'm designing. I'm managing people because I want my design to work. When I'm negotiating with the contractor to build a specific, maybe a ceiling, I'm actually trying to make sure that my design is coming to life. So if you take yourself out of the notion that architecture is about, and if I'm saying it the right way, just drawing. If you take yourself out of that, then you suddenly realize that what you do to come up with the product is actually architecture, and that's several things.
I'm very interested with the business aspect of the profession in comparison with this technical and practical aspect. So do you think the involvement of other departments like business development unit in getting more revenues to this profession and getting more sustainable development with this architectural firms, and promoting and getting more awareness to the society, and also influencing with these policymakers.
Maybe Zalaka, do you want to reflect?
I will reflect to that, but I was just thinking when Amani was talking about the client, how do I see a client? And then I will respond to that. The way I see a client is as a person most interested on a project I'm doing. So if it's a healthy client, he's an important element of your design because he can help you because he's so much interested. He thinks about his building day and night. So you have a partner actually if you have a good client. So I was talking about an atmosphere in an office. So in an office, if someone is very interested in a project, he's a great partner on a project because he can save a project. He can save from mistakes. He can save from, overlooking issues. So a good client actually, if he's healthy, if he trusts you, he's an excellent partner because he would come the next morning saying, have you seen this? And then probably have forgotten that, and it becomes an important element. So I've also seen some great architects talking about a client. I even know some. I cannot do a project if I don't have a client. So when I think of that, I see it's an important partner. But unfortunately, not most clients are good partners. Most clients may not be interested. Like they give you a project, probably they have forgotten it. And then when you go for submission, they have changed their mind. So the office, they have turned it into a hotel. So this is a bad client. So otherwise, it's a very interesting thing. Then I think about the business side. I think it looks now a very important thing. Probably it's the reason why architecture is still in the background, where we do the most visible part of a city. We are the most invisible professionals. So I think we have to do awareness. It's very important. And there is no doubt it's also a business. There's no doubt. We're business people. The trick is, as a professional society, as a group, we say we should not promote. We say we should not promote, probably not to mislead or not to compete amongst ourselves, but to work professionally, to work in cooperation. But somehow we have to find a balance somewhere that as a profession, our profession is promoted, and there is no the unhealthy kind of competition or trying to sell ourselves and kill others. But this is not something we agree here. This is something we should discuss as a team, as a professionals, because it looks like a taboo that architecture is a profession not to be promoted. You would not run an ad in the TV that I have designed this building, I have designed this, you can come and get another project. I think we have agreed not to do that. But the profession has to be promoted. But I would not also rule out as a professional that we should not have a visiting card and give it to people that we do this business, and also find a balance as a group where our business is promoted and as a profession is promoted. I think this is something probably which has killed our profession, and we really have to sit critically, and it should be promoted, I think. That's what I think.
Maybe this time questions from students to finish up as well.
My question is, although I am a firm believer that an architect is responsible for the whole part of the building, as in from start to finish. I do wonder that if there was a party, like a group of contractors or the contracting industry, that you can trust to actually build what you have designed, that you can trust with your life, and has liabilities if they don't do so, would it, if the architect's role was limited to designing, would that be a bad thing, or does the architect has to be part of the design, whether or not there's a trusted party that you can outsource it to?
Any more students?
I think it's not a matter of trust. It's not whether I trust the contractor or not. It's a matter of being there to take care of my baby. Because the baby grows during the construction stage. And I still want to emphasize that it's still not on its own when you have finished the design. There are people who feel that the drawings are done, working drawing is finished, as detailed as possible, then it's okay. We can go to the construction stage and the contractor can go on. I don't agree with that. I think the design is finished when the building is finished. So who will do that assignment? Assuming there's someone you trust and he will not change your design and so on. The issue is not about trust. The issue is about being there to, how you prune a flower, a tree. You cut it, you give it water, and then you take out the root, the weeds around it. You give it space to grow. It's very likely that if you abandon might be a very difficult word, but if you interrupt your engagement in the project before the building is a product, the idea is a product, it's very likely that it will change shape. It's also, it's also an understanding of design being able to finish it. I mean, it's sometimes not possible to finish design in just drawings. You have to be there to give one-to-one details. You have to be there on the construction site and feel the space. You may have thought about it in a different way, and this necessarily is not a capacity question. You may have a better idea when you are seeing the walls coming up. So it's not a matter of trust. It's a matter of being there to groom the idea, because it's still an idea. Unless it is a full space and a form, it's still an idea and it's not a product yet.
Yeah, actually, you just asked a question which I made a note and I wanted to say something. I think when we say to the architect, then we have to have one profession anyways, one person who would know the totality. And the likely person is the architect. So it is a principle we're saying, that it is a responsibility. But it is very frustrating, I know. Each one of us would say, can we do that? I know it is demanding. But I think what I was trying to say and what's the important thing is if a building would not have one responsible person who would see the whole thing, then it would not have that quality which you have imagined. So the overwhelming thing is, how would I get that capacity? Do we have a capacity? Definitely, we don't. I have worked 20 years. I still don't have the capacity to do everything. I have to learn. But I have a capacity how to learn quickly and see the things and coordinate. Because maybe if I put somebody else, he has less capacity than I have. So I'm better than him to coordinate. So it's better I coordinate it than give it to someone. But if I don't do it, what happens? Others will do it. Who has less capacity and who would damage the building more. So a particular project, it can be done, no problem. We're talking about that. But as a principle, who would do it better? So I think then how do we get also the capacity? I was also thinking on that. And this is something we have to work as a school, we have to work as a professional society, as a government, is if this group, the architect, is a group who is likely to have the capacity to do that coordination, how would we give that capacity? The capacity to do it is to allow us to practice, to allow us to make mistakes. So we have to do it. And then when we do, we learn better. If we don't do, others are doing it. But they are doing much more mistakes, much more damage. And the lesson is much quicker if we do it. So we should not be overwhelmed. Of course, we don't know it at the moment. But we would learn it. And then we know where to go. Like the builder you suggest is one. If you know someone who's done that thing repeatedly, then you can go and ask him. But you chose him. That makes you a coordinator already. You choose. And you make the decision. So there are different ways to do it. We cannot claim we know everything. It is impossible. And for a specific design and a specific material, you may have to get an expert and understand what he's saying, and then try to be humble, but try to lead the process. Because if you don't do it, others have less capacity, less experience on that, and more likely to make much more mistake than you do. So it's a kind of principle we are putting, that it's a principle that we have to build our capacity, and as a tip, I think in the school we have to tell our students that this is a capacity we develop. That's why you go in the middle of the year for a practice to have a test of what's going on. I'm sure how much capacity you came back after 6 months practice. It is, I'm sure, very huge. You never have seen things done. Now you go to class, you are quickly absorbing many things. Many things give meaning. So the same when you go to practice and then you're exposed on the right structure, go to an office which gives you experience, and then quickly learn. So I think I don't see any other profession who can do it better than us when it comes to building, because our training is that, and we are easily trainable also in the practice. So I think it is the principle and it is a strategy where we each one have to get into and struggle. But of course, it's not very easy. It is demanding, and we have to be ready for that.
Thank you. I would like to apologize. I'm not being timid when I apologize. Sorry.
Thank you. As the main actors in the construction sector, the architect, the client, and the builder, sometimes it's very hard to find the role of the architect clearly. As clients are the ones who, in many cases, budget the project, they come as considering the architect as a medical doctor sometimes, to get whatever he has to give them. Sometimes they come considering the architect like a tailor. This is what I want. You have to give me what I like. So how do you go with that thin line? Because if you don't do it, like you said, others will do it. And of course, there's a limit to say no, I can't do this. But how far do you go in your practical experience?
I think my personal experience is the best occasions I have is a client who came trusted me. If the client has trusted me from the beginning, I have the best results. And most likely the result will be fulfilling. I remember lecture from one architect, an international architect. He was showing his buildings and he was saying, this was an excellent client. And then I didn't know originally what it meant, really. So I found out, and my interpretation is, I think it's important that you have a very harmonious and a trust relationship with your client. If your client mistrusts you from the beginning, you have difficulty to have a successful project. I'm sure in the process, somewhere will be out, or your project will be transmuted and gone into a direction you don't. So I think this is, again, a skill. We take an architecture practice class here, and these are the skills we're trying to be hinted, but not we would learn here. We would have to do it in life. I think some people are lucky. I think some people have very skillful in that. I'm sure you have seen the video of Louis Kahn, and there was this IMP, the Chinese architect, who was giving a comment. And I remember that comment he said. Louis Kahn was very rigid, you know, and he was not able to do a design or a significant building until he was 50, you know. Those few buildings we know and we study are those done after he was 50. And then I think the IMP says, you know, I'm a Chinese, he says. Yeah? In China, we don't say no, we accommodate. That's an interesting quality. You know, sometimes as human, you think something is just right on a discussion. If you have a quality, I don't have that quality, but to just pass the time and go home and think probably what the client has said could be correct, you know. Or maybe you find a way to overcome that thing. But quite often what happens is right on the discussion, we have a strong opinion, and then we could break that relationship, or we could make a difficult situation to our project. So I think this is a quality as a person we may have to develop. Like I said, like the Chinese, the capacity where you have a way to take time. And I think this is totally a personal skill, and everybody has to develop that.
One thing that has not been asked, but which is something that is being asked by, you know, from outside, is you know, people say architecture or employing an architect, employing the services of an architect is for the rich. That's really surprising. How we have led people to think that. Of course, we are responsible because we may have been quite flamboyant in our designs. We may have not used affordable materials. I mean, this will be an assignment for a generation. If you allow me to generalize, I would say that we have failed our clients who cannot pay for expensive material. You know, as a poor country, we don't manufacture a lot here, but we import a lot. But we have failed our clients in delivering affordable projects in many occasions. There will be exceptions, of course. Competitions and projects will be commissioned to architects instead of going about it the way they were going about it. And one statement that came out of them in a bold way, and I remember this was an architect saying, was, you guys design only for the rich. We are catering for the low income. I mean, originally that was the plan. And I felt, you know, I kind of felt embarrassed because I could not defend, because there was nothing around to say, no, this is not true, look at this, look at that. And I think this is an important discussion people should start asking. Do we cater for the low income? Do we cater for someone who says, I want to get this project through you because I want to make it affordable. Most of our clients, and I may speak for myself, most of my clients, maybe 80%, 90%, were people who could afford to import from Dubai, China, people who said, no, let's have, instead of plastic tile local, let's have Spanish, and maybe this is the experience of most of you here. But for me, architecture has nothing to do with expensive material. How much I have been successful, I don't know, but architecture should be, in fact, optimization, because design is design. The word design itself means choosing between different options, the most optimum. So I think a question that should come out of such gatherings is if we have delivered to our to the society. The Bauhaus thrived because all of a sudden after the war, there needed to be a lot of mass production. There was mass consumption because there was a lot of reconstruction going on. And then resource was meager. There wasn't enough to play around. It was not as if, as if we're doing, we are mainly doing in our cities now. So the architects then could come up with solutions on how to mass produce buildings without compromising architecture, how to make it affordable, and so on. So when you see at the different housing, tomorrow we're going to discuss here housing projects, and you ask this question, have architects really been successful in coming up with a product that is affordable? This becomes a question in anyone's practice, and this is just a question. I'm not giving an answer.
It's a very important issue. Thank you for raising it. I want to continue with what I started earlier. So I wanted to apologize because I felt I couldn't deliver a real debate. It may be because of the choice, many things. But there are some things that I want to stress concerning debate and discourses like this. One is intellectual debate. Our understanding of intellectual debate may be quite different from the political debate or a debate where you really have to win someone. Instead, it's more of subjects. It's about objectivism, being objective and analyzing things critically and talking about them critically. So the subjectivity or the emotional dialogue of winning or being won stays behind, and it's more of critical. Our subjects are so critical. I think that has to be underlined as a knowledge of debate. But there is also a problem with our society because we don't have the culture of discussion, especially critically discussing or questioning things. There is timidness, which we celebrate. Being timid is good, but being timid and not questioning what needs to be questioned is not good. There was this cultural problem as well. So the other main issue is the subject itself, the subject to discuss about. We don't have too many people who have clear stance in some subject and who want to defend it and fight against someone who has another clear, strong opinion and subject, because we don't have this culture of questioning and analyzing and developing an intellect. We have few people to select from to talk, and I really appreciate those who came here to be part of this debate, and I think it's a very important stage in intellectual discourse to start discussing issues, whatever they may be, whatever is important, we have to ask and question. So this was the purpose or the underlying thought behind setting up this debate. The other one is we have to record what we have right now as a practice, as a thought, as a theory, as a way of education. We have to record it, we have to talk and put it down so that others can refer it in the future as well. And the other one is we have to, in order to act also in the way we are acting, we have to reflect on how we are acting already. So these are very important things. So that's the purpose of this debate. As an output, we foresee a book to come out of these debates, and also an introduction of new ideas and theories into the education of the architects as we do it here. That's basically it. What we will have now is the closing statements from the director of the school, Joachim Dieter.
If I get your speaker's desk for 3 till 5 minutes, Antenne. So first of all, I want to like to thank Antenne for organizing this successful event. From the beginning, I was wondering why a debate can be more successful than a lecture. If I compare it with bamboo lectures or others we had, I was very surprised. But I would like to give a hand for Antenne for organizing this. Then I have been asked to summarize on these 3 debates. The first one I didn't join. The second one I also enjoyed very much. It was a hot debate, and now we had the third about practice with Zelege Belay and Emmanuel. And so I would just go on 2 points and then go to the second debate where I would like to add some words and personal notes. So we discussed about the role of the architect, and we heard a debate of 2 architects, 2 successful members of the society, which could be role models for our architects, for our young students, and many of you will try to be as successful as they are. It sounded a little like the ideal architects in the ideal world, and I would like to put this a little in the correct light. We heard that architects are pushed out sometimes even after a building permit. I can tell you, in Germany, you are already sometimes pushed out after a facade competition, and the architect's role is finished with this. This is all he is doing. The contractor says, the structure I do myself, I know where the staircase is and the toilets, the sanitary rooms, and you just do the facade, and afterwards you are out. And this is the reality, and this will happen more and more also here. You will see this. Ask yourself in the Tito Street, in the 8-story high office buildings, what do you need an architect for this anymore if you have empty stories with a facade that is nearly exchangeable? The contractor is doing this all by himself. And so the role of the architect, in my opinion, has in the real world less and less meaning. The trend is even, this is the next model,